Okay, recording has started, Chair, if you want to start the meeting officially.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Social Services, Housing and Community Safety on the 10th of November 2022. I'm Councillor Charlotte Goldsworthy and I'll be chairing this meeting. Before we move on to the next agenda item, please note that this meeting will be recorded. Please can you ensure that all your mobile phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting? Can members and officers who are present in the chamber please use their microphones when speaking? When asked to raise your hands, can members who are virtually viewing this meeting raise your electronic hand? Members who are in the chamber, just please raise your hand physically. For the purposes of declarations, I would like to confirm that we will be scrutinising items 7, 8, 10 and 15 on the Cabinet Board papers. Now I will move on to agenda item 2, which are there any declarations of interest? As I haven't been told there's any, apart from myself. Who I'm a personal, on agenda item 7, I'm a PA for my mum, but I have checked that I don't I don't have to leave or anything, because obviously what the report is around the framework and things like that. So I won't be leaving the room. Just bear with me. Again, this is going to be quite a quick meeting, because I must say I have to congratulate staff in the detail of these reports are first class. Even when I'm trying to get questions, all the information is actually on there. I feel like I'm a bit redundant, but I think it's also given our new members time to try and figure out and learn about all the different departments and services that we do, because at the moment it's so big that everyone is getting a bit overwhelmed with, obviously, but I'm confident now with putting a bit more support in place that we'll obviously overcome them anyway. So you will see the minutes are attached at pages 5 to 9 of your agenda pack. If you feel these are accurate recording of the meeting, can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
I propose, Charlotte.
Okay.
Thank you. And then that was Councillor Peter Richard in the chamber, seconded. So I can confirm those minutes have been approved, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, we'll now move on to Cabinet agenda for pre-decision scrutiny. As previously mentioned, we have decided to scrutinise only items 7, 8, 10 and 15. So our first item is item 7, which is the Managed Account and Payroll Support Framework. So I've got 3 or 4 questions. There are members here that obviously weren't in briefing. So if you do have any questions on any of the items, obviously we've decided to scrutinise, please just raise your hand. If I can call in Oliver, please.
Just a quick question. What's the current waiting time to change accounts from managed to direct payments or vice versa?
There is very little time in moving that side. That's not an issue for us, Councillor Davis. The issue with all of direct payments is more about obtaining a PA, personal assistant, but that's an administrative moving one to the other. That's not an issue for us in the directorate.
You okay with that, Oliver?
Yeah, fine, thanks.
Good. Dan?
Yeah, just 2 questions from me. Can you tell me what the current waiting times are for assessments for direct payments? And how long does it take for a PA to be found and matched with a service user? Thanks.
Okay, happy to take these questions. They don't actually relate to this, but assessments are, we're up to speed with assessments. So it's difficult to give you a definitive timescale, but we're not waiting months. The issue we have is actually getting PAs in the first place. So it's the same across all forms of care. It's not just personal assistance, it's the same issue we'd have with residential care, domiciliary care. It's actually trying to get people into that profession. I can see Sue's got her hand up. She manages this service, so I'll let Sue fill in.
Part of the delay, if there is a delay, is about getting a DBS check where those are required, where we need to put training in place and where we need to get insurance. So that sometimes does delay the start of the service. That's if people have got their own PA. As Angela rightly says, if we are looking for PAs, that can be, unfortunately, how long is a piece of string until we can find the right person to do that task.
Sorry, Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I think you just answered my question. My question was, in the current climate, how confident are you of providing and supplying sufficient staff? I think it's just been answered, mate.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Right, that's all the questions, unless anyone else got any other questions or any officers wish to add. No. In regards to, and this is just a site actually, I was interested to see that the number of people who have taken up direct payments, it's not far off what the figures were 3-4 years ago. So I was expecting that to have increased quite considerably, but it hasn't. So that was an interesting thing on page 20, but that was basically all I sort of seen on that one. So if you just move on now to item 8, please.
Chair, if you want to go to the recommendation.
Oh, forgot that one. Come on, Chloe. Yeah, so the recommendation there is listed on page 25 of the Cabinet Board Agenda Pact. As you can see, there are 2 separate recommendations. I will take them in their entirety. So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Thank you, and thank you.
So you've had Councillor Peter Richard propose and Councillor Dan Thomas second in the chamber.
Yeah.
So I can confirm that those items will be taken forward to Cabinet Board as they are.
But we'll now move on to item 8, which is the procurement of the specialist domiciliary care framework. Angela, do you have anything to add first for this?
No, other than to say, we have our routine framework for domiciliary care, as members will be aware. This is going out for a specialist domiciliary care. Unless there are questions there, it's quite self-explanatory, Chair, in terms of the report itself, but happy to take any questions.
Right. Councillor Thomas, you've got one question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could confirm, is dementia included under the mental health?
No, this is specific for dementia. Most of the people we deal with now in the community will have, well, not all, but some will have some form of dementia, and that's part of the routine domiciliary care framework. Shalane, would you like to add in terms of the specifics?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So we have a framework already established for the older age group, traditionally the over 65s. That is for people with age-related frailty and also with dementia. So we've already got a framework in place that covers dementia and age-related frailty and disabilities. This framework is more for your working age groups and also children and young people and families that are supporting their children and young people with disabilities. So it's learning disabilities, mental health, and children and young people services that this framework in particular will apply to.
Thanks, Shalane. Is that okay, Dan? Yeah. The recommendations are listed on page. No, it was only Dan. No. There's no more questions on that one, is there? Oliver? No. Okay. So the recommend.
Thank you,
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte. I was just
Yeah.
looking at page 60, but it says presently the number of adults with complex needs receiving special domiciliary care. I'm surprised that it is actually so low. Could you tell me what are the current waiting times? But I also see as well then there is insufficient data. Is the data going to improve at any time?
Could you just give me one moment to have a look at that page so I can see what you're looking at?
Page 60.
is that the equality impact assessment? The pages all of a sudden change. Oh, I see. Sorry, yeah, it's at the
Yeah,
side.
what evidence was used
Yeah,
in the
so
section
yeah,
you
there is a small amount of people with learning disabilities and mental health that receive domiciliary care. A lot of people with learning disabilities or mental health currently live in supported living accommodations or specialist care homes. So the demand for specialist dom care isn't as high. However, by developing this framework and having this framework, it means there's wider options there for people, because what we're doing at the moment is trying to support and enable people so that they can live by themselves in their own homes with a package of domiciliary care. So it all falls into part of that work that we're doing to give people and promote people's independence. And yes, once we have this framework in place, we should be able to get better data, because we will have a framework where these packages go through, so we're able to collect data, whereas at the moment we don't collect all the data we would want to collect.
Okay, thank you very much.
And everyone knows we all love data on this committee, don't we? We love it. So is there any other questions now before moving on? Right. Bear with me. I've just lost my place now. So the recommendations here are listed on pages 56 to 57 of the Cabinet Board Agenda Pack. As you can see, there are 5 separate recommendations. I will take them in their entirety. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder? And if members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take that this decision is supported to Cabinet Board.
I propose.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas. Thank you.
Councillor
Richards.
So I can confirm those items have been approved to go to Cabinet Board.
Right, we'll move on now to item agenda 10, which is fee uplifts to support.
Chair. So that's finalised all the public items.
yeah.
So if we can move back to the scrutiny agenda now, which is agenda item 5, which is the forward work programme, because the other items will be in private session.
If you can go
Yeah.
on.
So members, as you can see on the scrutiny agenda, agenda item 5, the forward work programme is there for 2022-2023. Members of the Scrutiny Committee have recently had their forward work programme workshop, in which they discussed items they would like to bring forward to the committee in this civic year. Scrutiny Officer Alison Thomas has met with officers to discuss those items and when would be appropriate to bring them forward. So Alison will be working with officers to start populating the forward work programme. And just as an aside, there is a session next session. Thank you, Chair.
Just bear with me. Agenda item 6 now. We have no urgent items. So now we'll be going on to item 7, access to meetings. We will now need to consider the private items included on the Cabinet Board agenda. As you can see on the agenda, the private paragraph is there for everyone to read. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder to move into private? And can I please ask that any public or press in attendance now exit the meeting and the recording be stopped?
Chair, sorry, Chair. I don't know whether I'm getting confused. Just before you go into private, I understood you were going to scrutinise
Number 10.
item 10.
That as well.
And I hadn't thought that was in private.
Yeah, go back to item 10.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's all right, Tom. I don't need much confusing, do I? Right, so sorry about that, but we're going back a stage to item 10. So hopefully no one else gets confused. Item 10 is the uplift to older people's care home fees. And again, this is a report, is for decision. On that, we have Oliver has got a question.
Yeah, looking at page 60, the implement of £30 per person. Are you expecting this to change when the cap on energy, whatever happens next year, because energy will go up and obviously money will be tighter again?
So shall I start off, Shelley, and then maybe you could come in on this one. Is that okay, Chair?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, I'm anticipating that we will have to put up fees again into the future, depending on what the cost of living brings. Councillor Davis, just to say, I did want this. So the reason I intervened, Chair, I did want this report to be in the public domain. I think it's important that the public see that we are investing in care homes for our older people. But in essence, Councillor Davis, yes, we will have to continue to review the fees that we give, and I think this is the first step of an uplift programme that we'll need to put in place over the coming years. But Shelley could probably add a bit more to that.
Yeah, I mean, this uplift is for this financial year, and it's looking at, I mentioned it in the report, we did an exercise to look at the fee levels for this financial year. However, obviously, from the beginning of April to now, as we all know, there's been a lot of things that we couldn't have predicted that has directly impacted on the financial viability of care homes. And so we did a piece of work with care homes to review what those kinds of financial pressures they were facing. You know, so it is fuel, it is food, all the things like that, the things you would expect, and then some other things that you may not think about that have impacted, like insurance premiums, things like that. So we did a very detailed piece of work with the sector, and we identified that really they needed an extra £30 this financial year to be viable. But we are now doing a piece of work to try and identify what the fees should look like for the next financial year, the 23-24 financial year. So we are working on that now.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Councillor Davis, given where inflation is, I would expect that to be, significant uplift next year. And when you see the budget figures that we're drafting, you will see a significant amount of money going in as a result of that. So you're absolutely right to ask that question. We will have to uplift those fees again next year.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you all. And in our briefing session, we did have a little chat about, we couldn't understand the very little difference between residential care, nursing care and EMI, which is current. It's only £10 between, and obviously the care of residential and nursing is totally different. So again, the new proposals do make much more sense, and it's good for everyone to actually see that we are supporting the care homes in general. Is there any other questions? No?
Chair, I think Shelley wanted to come in on that particular point. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear about what that amount is for the nursing care that you said.
Thank you. So just to clarify, that is the amount the local authority pays to nursing homes. On top of that is something called a FNC, funding nursing care is what FNC stands for, which the health board then pays for on top. So the overall fee for a nursing home placement is higher than that, but the uplift and the amount that social services contribute is the amount that we've put in that paper.
Right, okay, thank you, Shelley. The other question as well we had in briefing was, what happens, there's nursing care, non-nursing care, residential, isn't it? The families contribute to as well. What happens if they are not in a position to actually pay for the additional charges for nursing care, obviously going forward? Angela?
Yeah, it's not the nursing side of it, Chair. It's what they call a top-up, a third-party top-up.
Yeah.
And most homes are now charging a top-up fee, ranging from 50 to 150. I think the average is £65. That is becoming the norm, because homes are saying quite clearly we haven't been paying them enough to cover their costs. So where families can't afford and where we are placing people in homes ourselves because we can't provide care for them, we as a local authority are picking up that tab. We are picking up the third party top up. So in terms of where we're going in terms of increasing the fees, the thinking is if we increase them sufficiently, then we'd move away from having that top up to the family.
top up. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Angela. Is there any other questions now before we move on? Okay. So the recommendations are listed on page 110 of the Cabinet Board Agenda Pack. As you can see, there are two separate recommendations. I will take them in their entirety. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder? If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that the decision is supported to Cabinet Board.
I propose.
Thank you. Dan. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Richard in the chamber, so I can confirm that item has been supported to go to Cabinet Board.
Next, we have agenda item 15. Bear with me.
Yeah, it was my error because we did the forward work programme already. We've done the urgent item. So that was all the public items, which was 7, 8 and 10. So now we'll need to move into private session. So Chair, if you could go to the access to meetings. You just read that out.
For the second time now. We will now need to consider the private items included on the Cabinet Board agenda. As you can see on the agenda, the private paragraph is there for everyone to read. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder to move into private? And can I please ask that any public or press in attendance now exit the meeting, and can the recording be stopped? But I'm not aware of any press or any public. Okay, so can I have a proposer
Propose.
and a seconder, please?
Okay, so proposed by Councillor Dan Thomas, seconded by Councillor Peter Richards. So I'll just stop the recording. Like the